Welcome back, guys, to Just Do You. Funny thing is, this episode is a little bit late, and honestly may end up being a two-parter because it is that important, I think. This episode of Just Do You actually wrote itself on May the 1st, the same day that Untold Stories was written. And I remember thinking, wow, that was easy. I did both of them. That's for the next 2 weeks. I'm set up. So you're thinking to yourself, then how could it possibly be late if it wrote itself on May 1st? Well, in all honesty, I've attempted to record it several times, but something always kept interrupting it. Looking back now, I can clearly see why I wrote it so early. I needed to see my next message for you and for me, and that is wait well. I have learned to wait well. I actually got some brand new equipment for Mother's Day. I was so excited to use it. But I haven't actually been able to figure out the best way to make everything communicate, so still no video, other than my slides again this week, because it's not time for that video yet. That's what I'm telling myself, because it's not about me. It's about sharing my story as it unfolds in order to help you rewrite yours, right? And I'm learning to wait well. But that's my next chapter. So let's get started with episode 6. Remember, recognize, and believe in goodness. You know, last episode of Untold Stories kind of brought up our past a lot. And it pointed out that our past has definitely been a huge part in defining us. And it's easy to see why some of us will dwell there in the past. There are events that mark us and change us in ways that we can't perceive, right? Our physical self really doesn't stand a chance in this world, if you think about it. Thank God for our spiritual self, the mental self. You know, the human mind is a miraculous thing in the way that our minds take in a great deal of information from multiple senses all at the same time. It analyzes all of that input, it interprets it, and it reacts to it, and then it stores all that information. You think about it. The sights, sounds, smells, feelings, they can all trigger memories associated with and connected to past information, which has previously been categorized and filed neatly away in storage somewhere. Then our minds begin to interpret that input and determine what to do with it. It is at this point that we must willingly make a conscious decision of how we store that information. Not where we store it or why we store it, but how we store it. Remember, perception is everything. How you choose to store your thoughts and memories is the most important thing. You have to train yourself to remember, recognize, and believe in goodness. Because you can't control the input that your mind receives. But you most definitely can control the output by how you react to it and how you store that input. Definition of goodness: the quality of being morally good or virtuous. You see this quote here, goodness is easier to recognize than to define. What I just read you was the definition of goodness. And did you hear it? The quality of being morally good or virtuous. That's the definition of goodness. Didn't all of our teachers always tell us that you can't use the word in the definition? But Webster's definition of goodness is the quality of being morally good. Most of us see goodness every day. You see people holding doors for each other, saying thank you, waving somebody into traffic. Somebody pays for your meal at the McDonald's drive-thru. But the real goodness in the world, and those, I'm not saying those aren't good things. Those are the tiny seeds that we need to plant. But the real goodness is the world is that which often goes unseen. Our everyday senses are so accustomed to working routinely together to take in our daily lives that if we rely on them, our senses, to determine how to store things, then boy, are we missing a lot of good things right in front of our faces. Truth is, there are plenty of good men and good women around. But unfortunately, people have become so jaded by the pain that they've experienced or seen that they can't recognize it when they are looking right at one. Love that quote. Now, how we store our information matters. When you see a behavior in someone that your mind doesn't register as good, then your mind immediately begins to analyze it. You can't stop that. So don't stop that thinking process. Recognize it for what it is. It is a reaction to something or someone else. Maybe it's a reaction to you. Maybe it isn't. But you can't change what just happened, right? You can only change how you react to it. So don't stop your mind from analyzing further if you feel like you need to react. Look for and recognize the goodness, the blessings in the reactions of others. If there is one thing, speaking of things that I have learned over the past year, 2 years maybe, is that the best things in life aren't things. And y'all, many times reactions are over things. Sometimes you can easily recognize that, right? Parking places, ooh, money, the last piece of cake. It's easier to control your reactions if you stop and really think at those times about what's at stake here, right? But when reactions are over less tangible things, less recognizable things, then it becomes really difficult to remember goodness and to believe in goodness. Goodness in yourself, much less to be able to recognize it in other people, right? You cannot believe in God until you believe in yourself. God is good. If you remember that, God is good. You can't believe in goodness if you don't believe in yourself. In my last episodes, we started out finding your happy. Defining, redefining yourself. Rediscovering your values to help you find your true north. We talked about mental illness for what it actually is. It's spiritual illness. Sorry, I know that sounds freaky, but I'm a normal person and I'm just telling you. Mental illness is on a level that our physical bodies just don't understand. Yes, medication helps sometimes. Yes, counseling helps sometimes. But the most important part of healing a mental illness or a spiritual illness is to truly believe in goodness, and seeing goodness in yourself is the beginning of it. Then you can step out and see the beauty and the goodness in society. Now, understandably, all of us have those untold stories that we talked about in the last episode. Those untold stories are the cause of most of our reactions because they're in our roots. Remember, we talked about it, being in the roots. The roots of all goodness lie in the soil and the appreciation for goodness. You got to keep your soil healthy too, y'all. And your soil is your thoughts and your reactions. You have to appreciate goodness, the quality of being morally good. You know, like Aesop's fables. Every story has a meaning. Yours too. Everything has beauty, but not everybody sees it. Don't let yourself stop processing the bad thoughts until you clearly see the good in it. Don't let yourself stop processing the bad thoughts until you can clearly see the good in it. I'm a believer. I believe in the goodness of life. I believe in the brotherhood of mankind. I believe in humanity. I don't know who this person was, but I agree with them. Don't let your mind stop processing on a bad thought until you could recognize and believe the good in it. Then you stop yourself. This is so hard, right? Believing in something that can't be seen is hard work. Convincing our human minds that take in so much negative input every day to generate positive output is nearly impossible. It seems silly to say this out loud, but listen. For most people, believing in something that can't be seen is actually easier than believing in the goodness of real people, including ourselves. We got to change that view. We have to believe there's good in the world. And I can see now, because I'm almost at my 15-minute mark, that I have to quit here. This is going to be a 2-parter. And so next week, I'm going to share the rest of this with you. And I'm going to give you some more guidance on how to recognize the good, how to remember the goodness, and how to believe in goodness, because God is good. I love you. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Here are my web pages if you want to support me. Guys, I'm going to I'm going to tithe to the local crisis intervention center. So if you check out any of my products on Teespring, I would appreciate that. Sorry, going to the next one. Here we go. Resources for you. That's where I'm going to end it today. So I'm going to go to view, present. My dog's probably going to bark. But if you need resources, that was fast.